So I I I ran across this kind of odd article, and it's for dry January. Heineken alcohol-free 0.0 offers a dry pack of 31 cans. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because how do you fit 31 cans in an odd number in a box? I don't know. But a company in Minnesota, in Minnesota did it. And one of the interesting things about it is that they're Minneapolis based. Here we got the underliner. Minneapolis based agency Fast Horse. So I'm going to go look up Fast Horse and tell them I talked about them today. Fast Horse, cool, huh? In Minneapolis. So I get up to Minneapolis a lot, and hopefully I can meet those guys and girls and whatever, and find out how they are so creative. Okay, and Fast Horse also at the U.S. Open in September got Andy Roddick and Lindsay Davenport to let fans try and hit their serve back. I once did try to hit a pro tennis serve back, and the guy broke his racket. I think he really wanted to nail me. And he wasn't one of the, he was out, he was a teaching pro, but he had played some pretty serious tennis in his day, which it was past. And so he broke the racket, and that was it. I didn't really get my chance, although it looked to me like I could hit it. So what if it's only 80 miles an hour? I can't even imagine. Okay, so it makes a fastball look slow. Okay, and so dry. I ran dry January past a few of my friends. Now you got to understand, we're kind of dry December because with Orthodoxy, we fast, and some people fast from alcohol, some don't. Some of the monasteries kind of live on beer, so they kind of go with the flow. But my first real priest that I got to know said, if it's not prohibited, it's encouraged. So January will be much more alcohol rich than than December has been, and along with meat. I'm going back to the carnivore diet and probably alcohol as my main staples. So this isn't something I'm advocating, but I did think it was interesting that you could give away beer and you could have bring your beer to work day. And so let's switch over to watch this as one of the Heineken ads. It's a lot of fun. He does his presentation, pulls out a beer, and everybody's looking. He says, "Oh," turns it around. It's 0.0. Great taste, alcohol free. And now he was apparently the mascot in the college, and that's his screen blanker. Now you can at work. So one of the fun parts about this, here we go. One of the fun parts about this is that you can bring it to work, and I was really shocked how the market for non-alcoholic beer is growing, especially globally. The biggest market is for the Middle East, but Germany, United Kingdom, and USA are growing fast. So that was pretty interesting to me. So it's coming, and I used to drink it more often, but too much, too often it tastes lighter than light beer, which I don't drink. Life is too short for light beer, I say. But I'm not opposed to alcohol free, so like I said, in December generally we get to have wine on the weekends, but basically I stay away from it the rest of the week unless someone serves it to me, in which case I accommodate them. That's the first rule of Orthodox fasting. Don't make a fuss. Anyway, 7 top Heineken executives will be dry January initiates next month. So it was much more interesting than I expected from the headline, but I wanted to inform all of you. Oh, this is what I really wanted to say up here. Wait, stop. Dry packs, these are only available online, shipped to you if you win the contest, if you register. So you can register for them beginning at 10 a.m. Doesn't say what time zone, probably Eastern, because everybody thinks everything is Eastern. Uh, the whole world. Why not GMT? GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. Why not the whole world on that? Why do we even have time zones? Let's not get into that. Okay, so give me a heart for that one. Get rid of time zones. Get rid of daylight saving first, and then time zones. At least make the continental United States one time zone. China did it. Why have time zones? Messes up meetings all the time. Dry packs can sign up beginning December 27th at 10 a.m. Time zone unknown. Okay? But watch for it, and you can register, and you can get a 31 pack, and then you can write me and tell me how they do it. Okay, so now we're talking already into dry January. We're talking about the hope and change in 2020, and this is a fun one by Helen Edwards. And zeros have an odd effect on us humans. My daughter's car sort of tanked. I haven't gotten an update on her car because she said if she sells it, I get some of the cash. But I went and flew to Dallas on a one-day excursion, bought a car, got the cash out of the bank, handed it to the owner, and drove it home all the way to Wisconsin. Did it in 23 hours round trip. And the flight to Dallas from O'Hare was $36.50 on Spirit. It was the lowest priced travel. I think it costs less. It costs more than that to take Amtrak from Milwaukee to Chicago one way, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so I was just at about 298,000 miles in that car, and she sent me a picture when it hit 300,000, which is cool. I like having cars hit 300,000. It makes me feel like I got some money's worth out of it. So yes, zeros have an odd effect, right? And so that's why I was connecting 0.0 beer, dry January 2020, right? 1/1/2020, and hope for 2020. So research agencies will stop making sweeping recommendations. U.S. marketers, because they're only asking a few people. It's not even a convenient sample, really, when you get down to it. It's just conjecture. So don't tell us how to reorganize our entire business. Let's take those things and test them, especially with direct marketing. That would be great, right? That would be super great. Okay, I skipped number 2. 3, U.S. marketers working on global brands will resist making baseball metaphors. You strike out doing that globally. They don't understand. It's a foul ball, right? Wild pitch. It's no good, right? It's bad. What else is bad? Double play. There's a lot of bad in baseball, but don't use baseball metaphors. Anyway, everyone, I think I've run this article before because I keep doing baseball metaphors. I better skip this article. Okay, we'll save it, but we're not going to. Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to get to, Stephen Yu, and as usual, I burned up my time talking about silly stuff. Okay, but Stephen talks about why use the least wrong answers. Why go for the least wrong answers? And the idea is, he doesn't really get there, but I'm going to give it to you. I learned years and years ago. I've been doing modeling for about 25 years. Find somebody who's done it 25 years and is still doing it. Yeah, go look for that. And then you'll know who to call if you want to tiptoe into AI. And I've done thousands of models, thousands and thousands, right? And made real money. So, that said, years ago, I came to the conclusion that it was much easier to rule people out. So, who has the ego to buy a Ferrari? That's a tough question. There may be a good answer. Ferrari may have figured it out, but it's a very small sample set also. We only need to sell a dozen or two every now and then, right? So even if you take all the buyers and profile them, you will have not much. You say, well, yeah, they have to be making $1 million cash a year or something. Clear. Yeah, but there's a lot more of those people than there are people who are that and own a Ferrari. So what should we do instead? Well, sometimes it's better to say, who wouldn't buy a Ferrari? Somebody like me who drives late model luxury cars into the ground. There's no way I'm getting a Ferrari, right? And I wouldn't buy one. I don't even buy the luxury cars new. I let them get well maintained by the dealership for about 150,000 miles, and then they go for 300. I've had two that top 300 now. Um, One's still driving, the other one, when I give them to my daughters, they're not always as well maintained. I think I could get this current one to go 400 maybe. Anyway, so it's easier to rule people out than it is to rule people in. Okay? So I may not be able to figure out who's going to buy a Ferrari, but I might be able to figure out who isn't going to buy a Ferrari. Okay? That's basically the gist of modeling. Modeling fills in the gaps. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of gaps. Okay? Like I just was trying out gender as a variable. Now, it's not for a particularly gender-related sport. It's I'm not going to say what it exactly is, but it's something that men and women both do. I don't know in equal numbers. In the model, in the modeling data set, it said that men were better. In the validation, it said women were better, which is about what I expected, but I thought I'd run it through and see what happens. But there was a lot of missings. A lot of people, we didn't know which gender they were. And those were supposed to do terrible, and then they did good. I mean, it was completely flipped around. And when it does that, we just go, oh, that's... But we can very quickly do that, right? We can very quickly analyze that. Okay, and that's the biggest thing I like. Models summarize complex data. So right now on the model I'm doing, which isn't a very big mailer title, I've got 436 variables, I think, 430 something, 436. So you don't have time to dissect hundreds of variables. You can't just, I could literally pull each one up to the top of the model and say, how did this work historically in this particular mailing? I don't. I hate to say it. I generally put recency at the top because everybody understands it. And it's not always the most recent buyers are the best. The RFM people think that. It's totally not true. Oftentimes it's not true. And there's usually a reason for it not to be true. Go get my book. Actually, I have a book laying here so I can hold it up. But anyway, Spinning Straw into Gold, John Miglosh. Okay, and so they summarize, and you may be able to do clustering, but we stay away from it because what works this drop and this season may not be the same as what works next drop and next season. And so we like to keep them all loose. And luckily, we have a tool that puts them together for us on the fly. Models are far more accurate. Now, accuracy, precision, and predictive force are different things, right? But I think this is really true. Smart people can't imagine interactions among just 2 or 3 variables in their heads, right? Once you get past a few, you're out of luck. And so the computer does that. Thank you for the starry heart on that one. Stephen, did you make it? I don't know. I can't see. Models provide consistent results. I think that's true. And so we have this new offer, AI ROI, 90 days guaranteed, where we're going to write the agreement based on 20% beating by 20% or more than what you're doing now. If it doesn't do 20% or more, then it's just a test and that's it. No, you don't have to go forward on it. It's very reasonable. We don't even charge a premium to put it together. We don't charge like a database build. We just put it into a regular monthly fee that we all agree on would be very attainable if and when we do beat what you do by 20%. So it's all very straightforward, but we get to see the results. We get to see the impact. That's one of the things about testing with direct marketing principles, that it's not just modeling and we say, gee, it seems to do better. No, it's head-to-head. Uniques test. It's great. Modeling reveals hidden patterns in the data, and that's probably the number one thing long-term. Short-term, yeah, we tweak your mailings. What if you're not a mailer? Well, we can tweak your marketing too. But long-term, the thing that gives us the real value, where we get the real value, is the surprises. Because you'll never tweak to greatness. It's one of my personal sayings. Actually, I got it. My daughter asked me, after 20 years or 30 or 40 years of consulting, what's your number one principle? I said, you'll never tweak to greatness. You don't just tweaking is when you have a shortwave radio and you can't quite get to the station and you go past it in both directions and you finally settle on one bad signal. And that's what tweaking does. And best practices are pooled ignorance, as we said yesterday. So what does generate growth? What generates growth is a surprise market, a surprise offer, something that works dramatically better. I'm always amazed at how, like, one golfer for one season will just blow everybody away. They're all good. Their average scores across a year are fractions of a stroke different between the top guy and the 100th guy. Maybe it's a one stroke over the whole season. And yet one guy will dominate tournament after tournament, win 2 majors or 3, or just, win 5 or 6 tournaments. It's just amazing in a game that's so random where the ball bounces and where it goes. So those patterns, when you find one, that brings you explosive growth. The hidden patterns are where the explosive growth comes from. And if you're only looking at 4 or 5 factors, there's no surprise. You've already masked the entire, you've masked the possibility for surprise. Okay? Models help expand the universe. We score everybody top to bottom. Everybody got mailed. And by mistake or deliberately, we'll mail a few extra down into the model. And when we find something in there, we can go a little deeper. You don't just, you can't go deeper when you haven't mailed. People ask me, well, we mailed 100,000. What if we would have mailed 200,000? I can tell them with authority, you can't mail. You can't know what you didn't do. You can't test what you didn't do. You can only test what you did do. And so you got to set it up right. And this is the flaw in 99% of the modeling or the marketing I see, is they don't design the test into the process. When I learned marketing, we always test something. Now, humans don't like accountability. General and digital agencies, I think, like it least, and manipulate the attrition and attribution process, but we can't do that. And so you can look up my article, Integrity as a Modeling Variable. It matters. It's another thing with an old white guy. Okay? And the worst model often beats man-made rules. So test it. And that's what will help you learn. We'll help you learn testing, if nothing else. Okay, the famous phrase, all things being equal. Models don't work when things change. But you know what? You can know they're changing. And so with Musician's Friend, when we got started in 2006, things were popping along really nicely. In 2007, all of a sudden, 2008, kaboom, bad things. 2009, very different world than 2006 and 7. And so what we did was, instead of modeling a year past, because we had a pretty good feel for the seasonality by then, what we did was we started mailing as soon as the results were in. We started, so basically we had a drop and then we had a 3-month period. Now, if I were doing it again, given that they had really big email count, I would probably have said, let's switch over to or add in email modeling. Let's add in modeling in other venues. See how we can adapt this process so that we can get a real-time perspective, but also an understandable perspective, which is the flaw in most of the digital marketing modeling. So, and lastly, if the target is off, everything is off. So I got a question the other day from someone saying, does it matter if we've changed the offer, if we're changing the offer from last year? Yeah, it matters a lot. So last year, let's say you marketed, we had a client down in North Carolina, I won't say who, and they experimented with direct marketing. And they had the circulation department in one building, and they had the merchandise department in another building. And there were a couple of items that went well in the children's category, but they put some on the cover, and that particular title did bad, was very badly. It performed badly. And so the circulation and the lists for kids didn't seem to do very well either. The parents' lists or the grandparents' lists. So the circulation people simultaneously started cutting the lists related to kids in the home, and the merchandise people, because they had a couple of examples of exciting stuff, put more kids stuff in. That didn't work. I said, you might want to put them in the same room at least every now and then. And I've seen that before. I've seen that. We had another. I could give you lots of stories. We can't do that. Okay. And most data is straw, is garbage, goes under the animal, catches what comes out of the animal, and that's why you need a human involved. But this is as good an article as it gets, right? So I highly recommend Stephen Yu. Read everything he does. He puts out an article about every month, and I'll send this off to him later today. So thank you for joining me. Everybody that's got a decent customer circulation, 50,000 active customers or above, probably can make it work. We made it work in smaller than that, but right around that. You should be testing it. Merry Christmas. Have a great day. Thanks for joining. Like and share. Your friends.